Lesson 5 here at LearningGuitarToday.com. Today we're going to learn the notes on each of the 6 strings, of which we learn the names of, I believe, in Lesson 3. There's a couple things we're going to introduce today, and this lesson's going to be a little longer than the previous ones, so settle in and maybe take some notes if need be, or down below the video, of course, I've got some article content and some explanations of what we're going to talk about. So, before we grab the guitar today, I'm going to grab my whiteboard because I've got some information here that I want to talk about. So, we'll just talk about this side of the board for now. When we're talking about the notes on the string, we're talking about musical notes. And we've got A through G. There's no H, Q, R, Z notes. We've just got the 7 notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Now, if you think about the tuning lesson that we had the other day when I used the electric tuner, I talked about sharps and flats as well. There is of course A sharps, B flats, F sharps. There's other notes in there, but for right now we're just going to be concerned with whole, like the regular non-sharp, non-flat notes, A through G. So, the thing that I want to talk about first is this notion of a semitone and a whole tone, or a half step and a full step, either or. It depends. This comes from the concept on the piano and the white and the black keys, but we'll just talk about it in terms of music here. So, all our musical notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, each of them has what's called a whole step or a whole tone between them, except for 2 exceptions. Between the B and C note, there's only a half step or a semitone, and between the E and F notes, there's a half step or a semitone. Okay? So what does that mean when we translate that to our guitar? Well, let's look at the other half of this whiteboard here now. This, apologize, I'm not an artist, but what this diagram is basically is if we had our guitar like this, if we were looking at it, say, laying down. So what we basically have is our low E, or what's known as the 6th string, is at the bottom here, and our high E is at the top. For our later lessons on tablature, this is the same way that tablature is displayed. So this is basically a mock guitar neck and the first 5 frets. And I've used this to illustrate what I'm talking about with a half tone and a semitone. So, a semitone is the equivalent of 1 fret. So if we press 1 fret on any string, we've moved up 1 semitone from the string's note. And the string's note is, of course, the name of the string. So if we're on the string that's closest to us on our guitar, that's an E. Okay, so the E, pressing 1 takes it up, the first fret takes us up 1 semitone. Okay? Now, a whole tone, or a whole step, sometimes referred to, is 2 semis, or 2 halves, which is 2 frets, right? So if we go to the 2nd fret on that same string, we've moved up a whole tone. So taking that information, that 1 fret is a half step or a semitone, and 2 frets is a whole step or a whole tone, we can now look at our notes here and realize that, okay, so from A to B, that's a whole tone, so that's a 2 fret spacing. Or from B to C, that's a semitone, so it's only a 1 fret spacing, okay? So, we can take that information now, and we can grab our guitar, and we can do a little bit of example work on what notes are what. So, let's start with the low E, right? That was the bottom one on my picture there. And keeping in mind what we just talked about, it's a half step, or a semitone step, between E and F. So, that string, the top one closest to us, is what string? It's the low E, right? And what comes after E in the musical alphabet is F, right? And that's one of the exceptions. It's only a semitone step. So we go from low E, we go 1 fret. And that's an F. That's the first fret on that low E string. So E, half step or semitone, F. After F comes what? G, right? In the musical alphabet, that is. And G is a whole step. So we have to go up 2 frets to get that whole tone. So we go from fret 1, fret 2, fret 3 is a whole step up from that F. So fret 3 on that low E is a G. Now Now what comes after G? Well, there's no H, remember, so we wrap back around. If we refer back to the whiteboard just for a quick moment here, we wrap back around from the G back up to the A. And that is a whole step as well, similar to, pardon me. So, we've got G to A is another whole step, right? So, G, A. So we've got E, F on the first fret, half step up. G on the third fret, which is a whole tone up, 2 frets. And A on the 5th fret, which is another whole tone up. Now something interesting just to point out here is at that 5th fret, we've now got the same note playing as the string below us, which is A as well. So we're just going to go up to the 5th fret now for the example purposes. Let's do the A string as well, and then I'll give you a little practice exercise where you can go ahead and figure out what the other notes on the other string are, and then we'll look at them in the next lesson. So our 5th string, or the second one closest to us, is the A string, A when open. So what comes after A is B, and that's not an exception, that's a whole tone or a whole step up, so 2 frets. So the 2nd fret on our A string is a B. Now B to C is one of those exceptions if you think back to the whiteboard here. We've got, notice B to C is a semitone, not a whole tone, right? So, A, B, 2nd fret, because that's 2 frets. C is going to be a semitone, or 1 fret up. A, B, C. And what's after C is D, right? And that's not an exception to what we talked about before, so that's a whole tone, or 2 frets up. So we go up 2 frets from the 3rd to the 5th, and we're at a D. So A, B, C, D on the 5th fret. And lo and behold, that D, if you think back to the names of the strings, matches that D string, which is the 4th string from the bottom, or the 3rd one closest to us at the top, matches that D, right? Okay, so I'm not going to walk through all the notes for you, because I think with the information we've got here, you can figure out the pattern that's going on. I'd like you to grab your guitar and go through the notes we just did, and you can use the information below here on the semitones and whole tones and such to find out what we're talking about. And try and find the rest of the notes on the D, G, B, and E strings. I'm going to give you one little hint. When you get to the G, and you're looking for that B note, which is the string below it, it's not the 5th fret. So see if you can figure out what that is. So in the next lesson, I will give you an overview again of what those notes were that I want you to find out right now. And we'll also look at how we can use this information to keep our guitar in tune if we don't have an electric tuner handy. So, my name's Ian. Thanks for watching this lesson with LearningGuitarToday.com. Bye for now.